So a ACC matchup in many conferences, a non-conference matchup in college football, because Notre Dame is in the ACC for every sport except for college football. They roll on their own for college football. Now, Notre Dame, we didn't really have the chance to talk about Notre Dame because they were playing an FCS opponent, and Notre Dame did exactly what they needed to do against an FCS opponent, and that is break their hearts and dreams to smithereens, and they won 56-3. But if you want to talk about FBS games, well, they played Navy, and they certainly surpassed expectations in that game against Navy back in week number 0. They beat Navy 42-3, and they showed that they are a different team than last year. They are a different Notre Dame team. North Carolina State, on the other hand, they just had their opener. They're on the road. They took on UConn, and UConn proved to be a tougher test than what NC State fans may have realized. They only won by 10. They won 24-14. The one saving grace, though, for North Carolina State is that they are at home in this game. That's where the favorable things for NC State ends, because what we saw from the first 2 games from Notre Dame, there's certainly a far more explosive offense than what we saw from last year. Sam Harden, for example, has already thrown for 450 yards and 6 touchdowns. He did this by throwing just 40 passes total on the season, by the way. So per attempt, he's throwing for over 11 yards an attempt. Pretty good stuff. The lead running back, I'm going to try my best to not butcher his name. I probably will. Adric Estime. If I butcher that, let me know in the comments. Give me a good pronunciation for that. I would truly appreciate that. But he's a stud, man. He is an absolute stud. This is a guy that ran for just a tick under 1,000 yards last year. He's off to his best start in the last couple of years. 7 yards a carry, 211 yards, 2 touchdowns, on pace for 1,200 yards as of right now in the regular season alone. So how I kind of want to do this, what I always like to do in my previews, is how do the upsets happen? So North Carolina State's defense was hyped up to be a nasty defensive unit, and we saw some of that in the UConn game. I think NC State fans would agree that the defense could have played better, but there's not as many issues with that defense as maybe you would feel about the offensive side of football, right? So they gave up 14 points to UConn. They allowed less than 300 yards of total offense. Pretty good for modern college football. But that defense is going to be tested. Notre Dame's offense has been humming along at an extraordinarily high level thus far this year, averaging 500 yards of total offense a game, averaging around 50 points a game, give or take, probably about 49 points a game so far. But this offense is humming along. It's a different Notre Dame team, plain and simple. So this defense is going to have to play an extraordinarily high level in order to have a chance to win this game. That's the first key. Defense has to show up. If you can limit Notre Dame to under 30 points in this game, I think you could have a shot to win this game. You got a shot. But it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy to make happen, because the other key in this is specifically on the quarterback. Brennan Armstrong, he was fine against UConn. You'd like to see him post a better stat line. 17 for 26, 155 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Didn't turn the ball over. But if North Carolina State's going to win this game, they need 2021 Brennan Armstrong. The Brennan Armstrong that threw for 31 touchdown passes, almost 4,500 yards, actually made the Virginia Cavaliers relevant. I think they made it to like the ACC title game that year. If they get the guy that we saw at UConn, or the guy that played at Virginia last year, North Carolina is not going to have much of a shot. The Wolfpack, I think we're going to have to score in the 30s to win this game if we're being realistic. Just because we haven't seen Notre Dame struggle yet. Now, granted, for Notre Dame, this is going to be the toughest team that they played against this year. No disrespect to Navy, no disrespect to Tennessee State. Neither of them are the same caliber team that North Carolina State is going to be. So that could consider. We'll take a look at what the Vegas line is currently, and this is as of Tuesday night. This is at around 7:12 on September 5th. So right now, as it sits at the moment, Notre Dame is sitting as a 7.5-point favorite. As of right now, we'll check the Any Given Saturday power model, and the power model has Notre Dame favored a tick higher, 11.5 points. It's relatively close. The model and Vegas relatively agree with each other. I do think that this is going to be a higher scoring game than what people expect, because I do think that Notre Dame's offense is going to continue to roll. I feel that, we talked about in week number 0, this is one of the best offensive lines in the entire country. This is a legitimate offensive line that Notre Dame does have. So another key for North Carolina State, therefore, if they want to win this game, they got to get to the quarterback. They did okay in that regard. They got 2 sacks. They got 4 TFLs. It was all right from a pass rush perspective, but that's the UConn offensive line. It's not nearly the same level caliber of player. Notre Dame has an NFL caliber offensive lineman, okay? How are they going to get pass rush on Sam Hartman? Because as we've seen in the week 0 game in Dublin Ironman, as we've seen in that game in Tennessee State, if he has time, he will cook. He's not the modern college quarterback that's going to run the read option and flirt with triple-digit running yards in a game. Sam Hartman's not that guy. He's a traditional pocket passer, and he's very effective in being that for Notre Dame. He already has over 13,000 passing yards in his college career. He'll probably be at least 15K, bare minimum, by the time this season is going to be over. So North Carolina State is going to have to get to Sam Hartman, get him off his spot, make him make throws on the run, because he hasn't been as accurate, still good, but hasn't been as effective against the run, right? Throwing on the run. Likewise, they're going to also have to figure out how to get more of a passing game. And that goes back to Brennan Armstrong. I'm not talking about getting like dink and dunk plays. I'm talking about explosive plays, because Notre Dame can get down that field now. I don't think this is going to be the type of game where you're going to be able to run that shoe clock like an NCAA 14. I don't think that's going to happen. For me, I think this could be a possible trap game for Notre Dame, if you're asking me for a prediction right now, because Notre Dame does have bigger games coming up. Not necessarily next week with Central Michigan, but Ohio State they're still ranked number 5 in the country. Okay, they're going to be hosting Ohio State in a couple weeks. So it's very important for Marcus Freeman to have his team keep his eyes on the prize and keep his team in the moment. So it's possible that North Carolina State covers. I think they try to make this game a little bit uglier than what Notre Dame may be comfortable with. But I do think Notre Dame ultimately wins this game, gets to 3-0, and then they get one step closer to hosting Ohio State as an undefeated team in 2 weeks. But again, Brennan Armstrong is that X factor. If he can rise to the occasion, be 2021 Brennan Armstrong, this could be a massive upset for the Wolfpack, and they can earn themselves into the top 25 with a big-time win.